Over the course of the next year, we'll be rolling out more features that make Siri even more personal and capable. For one, Apple Intelligence will provide Siri with on-screen awareness, so it'll be able to understand and take action with things on your screen. For example, say a friend texts you his new address. Right from the messages thread, you can say, add this address to his contact card. And Siri will take care of it. Thanks to Apple Intelligence, it has awareness of your personal context. With its semantic index of things like photos, calendar events, and files, plus information that's stashed in passing messages and emails, like hotel bookings, PDFs of concert tickets, and links that your friends have shared. Siri will find and understand things it never could before. And with the powerful privacy protections of Apple Intelligence, Siri will use this information to help you get things done without compromising your privacy. You'll be able to ask Siri to find something when you can't remember if it was in an email, a text, or a shared note, like some book recommendations that a friend sent you a while back. Or for times when you're filling out a form and need to input your driver's license, Siri will be able to find a photo of your license, extract your ID number, and type it into the form for you. Imagine that I'm planning to pick my mom up from the airport, and I'm trying to figure out my timing. Siri is going to be able to help me do this so easily. Siri, when is my mom's flight landing? What's awesome is that Siri actually cross-references flight details that my mom shared with me by email with real-time flight tracking to give me her up-to-date arrival time. What's our lunch plan? I don't always remember to add things to my calendar, and so I love that Siri can help me keep track of plans that I've made in casual conversation, like this lunch reservation my mom mentioned in a text. How long will it take us to get there from the airport? I haven't had to jump from mail to messages to maps to figure out this plan. And a set of tasks that would have taken minutes on my own, and honestly probably would have resulted in a call to my mom, could be addressed in a matter of...
Hey guys, welcome back in. Those were just a few of the tutorials, demos presented by Apple at their big reveal, and that would have been on June the 10th, Monday, yesterday, when I'm recording this. Those were just three examples of the reveal of what they're calling Apple Intelligence. Very clever play on words. So essentially, the reveal was that Apple's bringing AI to all of its devices, iPhones, iPads, Mac computers. Apple will integrate OpenAI's ChatGPT, essentially, with those products. And this rollout will happen later in the year. The tech geeks that I follow online were largely disappointed by this reveal, with some claiming that Apple should be integrating their products with large language models. This is something they should be doing, so it shouldn't be shocking to anybody if they're trying to stay relevant. And they are Apple, so maybe they're a bit behind the AI game, but it looks like they're catching up. There's an article associated with this from the New York Times. And in that article, it says, Apple will, quote, prioritize messages and notifications and offer writing tools that are capable of proofreading and suggesting what users have written in emails, notes, or text. It will also give a significant upgrade to Siri, Apple's virtual assistant, end quote. So Siri has been what most voice assistants have been up to this point, slow and not very good. But if Siri gets the low latency ability and the conversational ability of ChatGPT, this stands to be a game changer on the personal assistance front. And, the demos were demos. So they were, I'm sure doctored up and tailored to be flawless. So it's not clear if this is going to be the experience for the user. I think eventually it would be, but who's to say right away? But having Siri be able to recall past conversations with you will be, something new altogether. Also, the Apple Core products, iPhone, iPad, Mac, will finally be able to complement each other when you're working. You'll be able to access one device from another. It'll be able to retrieve data from one to another. There's also a calculator feature called Math Notes, which they demoed, which is very cool. I would recommend Googling Math Notes from Apple to see what that was about. Maybe Apple took a cue from Microsoft's poor rollout of Recall We talked about recall on our last show, a feature that seemed like a complete invasion of privacy and security. But throughout this 2-hour demo, Apple touted the strength of its security and privacy, I guess trying to assuage concerns of users. Though during and since the reveal, there's been one vocal opponent of the pairing of iPhones with OpenAI's technology, and that was Elon Musk. He didn't waste any time stating that this pairing was and is a huge privacy concern for iPhone users. It's not completely clear at this point if OpenAI will gain access to individual iPhone users' data as a result of this partnership. Elon went so far as to say that if this transmittal of data happens from iPhones to OpenAI, then he would ban iPhones at all of his company's facilities. I don't know how practical that would be, but Elon seems resolute on concerns around privacy, AI, and now competition with OpenAI. So maybe he does it. Though he does raise a concerning question, will OpenAI have access to iPhone, user data? We know that the lifeblood of these large language models, besides money, is data. Think about the amount of data OpenAI would have if they had access to, the 1.5 billion iPhones in use in the world. That would be a significant score for OpenAI and training their frontier models. Elon seems convinced that this is a play by OpenAI to simply get user data of iPhone users around the globe. If true, that should create pause for individual iPhone users. There's certainly more to learn on this front. Also, it's my understanding that Apple is not obligated to OpenAI in any long-term way. If Apple decides Facebook or Meta or Anthropic is a better technology for their products, they're essentially free to go with the highest bidder. So, more to come on the Apple intelligence front. But before we wrap this story up completely, I want to highlight one or a tweet. Last time we talked about the disintegration of OpenAI's safety alignment team. One of the people that left OpenAI's safety alignment team was a guy named Jan, I think that's his name, could be butchering it. But once he left OpenAI, he sent out a series of tweets saying why he left and what his concerns were. One of those tweets seems very relevant now. And I'm just going to read that tweet again. He says, quote, "Before we scramble to deeply integrate large language models everywhere in the economy, can we pause and think whether it is wise to do so? This is quite immature technology and we don't understand how it works. If we're not careful, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of correlated failures." So let's get into some headlines this week. From Wired.com, quote, "Microsoft will switch off recall by default after security backlash." We talked last show about a feature that Microsoft proudly rolled out called Recall. Recall would essentially take snapshots of your screen every few seconds to catalog everything on your CPU. That way, when you try to find something that, that seemingly missing file or document, you could use an AI search function to help you find it via those screenshots. Well, my initial reaction was like that of pretty much everyone else outside of Microsoft, that it was creepy. Even if it's my, work computer, I don't want my screen recorded at all, let alone all the time. This was an obvious security and privacy concern. What's concerning to me is how highly thought of it was and is by Microsoft, as if privacy or security concerns were an afterthought. Well, as you might have guessed, the feedback was mostly negative from all corners of the internet. As a result, Microsoft announced late last week that Recall would have an opt-in feature within Copilot. It won't automatically turn on. Users will have to manually turn on Recall for use, but, who's to say that Microsoft isn't recording or collecting the data whether your Recall is turned on or not? I hate to sound like a cynic, but, data is one of their major currencies. So from that article, quote, "In the preview versions of Recall, that screenshot data, complete with the user's every bank login, password, and porn site visit, would have been indefinitely collected on the user's machine by default. And though that highly sensitive data is stored locally on the user's machine and not uploaded to the cloud, cybersecurity experts have warned that it all remains accessible to any hacker who so much as gains a temporary foothold on a user's recall-enabled device, giving them a long-term panopticon view of the victim's digital life. From a former NSA hacker and founder of the security firm Immunity, Dave Itel says it makes your security very fragile. Anyone who penetrates your computer for even a second can get your whole history, which is not something people want, end quote. Well, agreed. Our next headline is from the New York Times, quote, Google is using AI to answer your health questions. Should you trust it? So you may have noticed in the past month or so a different look in your Google search results. We talked previously about the rollout of Google's AI overviews, which would give their traditional search results a different look than users are used to. This feature is being rolled out across the globe in phases, and Google appears to be fine-tuning it as it goes. The feature functions much like ChatGPT, in which you can get conversation-like answers to your questions in narrative form versus just a list of search results. One problem with this technology is that it doesn't always give accurate answers. So in the cases of health questions where lives are quite literally at stake, it's important to get answers right. Even though these are, Google search results, you can bet people use this as a means to handle their health-related needs, which begs the question, is Google liable for instances in which health information was generated on its platform, then implemented or used by the user, and then that user has a negative health experience based on that bad advice from Google? So from that article, quote, when it comes to the AI answers to health questions, experts said the stakes were particularly high. The technology could point people toward healthier habits or needed medical care, but it also has the potential to give inaccurate information. The AI can sometimes fabricate facts, and if its answers are shaped by websites that aren't grounded in science, it might offer advice that goes against medical guidance or poses a risk to a person's health. The system has already been shown to produce bad answers, seemingly based on flawed sources. When asked, how many rocks should I eat, for example, AI overviews told some users to eat at least one rock a day for vitamins and minerals. The advice was scraped from The Onion, which is a satirical website. Hema Buddharaju, a Google senior director of product management who helps to lead work on AI overview, said that health searches had additional guardrails, but declined to describe those guardrails in detail. Searches that are deemed dangerous or explicit, or that indicate that someone is in a vulnerable situation, such as with self-harm, do not trigger AI summaries, she said, end quote. So it appears those additional guardrails need some work if the platform is advising users to eat one rock per day. Anyway, the article goes on to give examples of cases in which good advice was given to users and where the information was sourced, like the Mayo Clinic or WebMD, etc. But the tool also pulls from Wikipedia and Reddit, where any crackpot can insert information that they want to into those platforms. So it appears Google has some work to do on those guardrails. Also from the New York Times, quote, if AI can do your job, maybe it can also replace your CEO, end quote. Yes, it can. One of the first things I remember hearing concerning AI and the future of work was close to a decade ago, in which Elon Musk was interviewed, and he quite unambiguously stated that there's not a profession that cannot and will not eventually be replaced by AI. If the future of work is less work and then no work, then that has to be true. If executives are analyzing trends and deciding on strategic initiatives, obviously a mature AI will be able to do that much more effectively than a human. On a long enough timeline, this will be a certainty. Of course, I imagine there will be executives that will be slow to hand over power to an AI, but it will happen. So from that article, quote, AI has been hyped as the solution to all corporate problems for about 18 months now. Ever since OpenAI rolled out ChatGPT in November 2022, Silicon Valley put $29 billion last year into generative AI and is selling it hard. Even in its current rudimentary form, AI that mimics human reasoning is finding a foothold among distressed companies with little to lose and lacking strong leadership. In struggling companies, you'll be replacing operational management first, but probably keep a few humans to think beyond the machine, said Saul J. Berman, a former senior consulting partner with IBM. Overall, he said, quote, the change delivered by AI in corporations will be as great or greater at the higher strategic levels of management as the lower ranks, end quote. Chief executives themselves seem enthusiastic about the prospect, or maybe just fatalistic. edX, the online learning platform created by administrators at Harvard and MIT, that is now a part of publicly traded 2U Inc., surveyed hundreds of chief executives and other executives last summer about the issue. Respondents were invited to take part and given what edX called a small monetary incentive to do so. The response was striking. Nearly half, 47%, of the executives surveyed said they believed most or all of the chief executive role should be completely automated or replaced by AI. Even executives believe that executives are superfluous in the late digital age. And the article goes on to give some practical examples of this already happening. Quote, long before the current AI boom, Jack Ma, then the chief executive of the Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba, predicted that in 30 years, a robot will likely be on the cover of Time magazine as the best CEO. He pointed out that robots were quicker and more rational than humans and were not driven by emotions like anger. The Chinese online game company NetDragon Websoft, which has 5,000 employees, appointed what it calls an AI-driven rotating CEO named Tang Yu in 2022. We believe AI is the future of corporate management, said the company's founder, Dezhan Liu, adding that it was part of NetDragon's move into the metaverse-based working community. Tang Yu, who was personified as a woman, does not appear on an online chart of NetDragon's management team, but the company announced last month that she had won the coveted title of China's Best Virtual Employee of the Year at the China Digital Human Industry Forum. Another executive picked up the award for her. NetDragon's AI employee team is in charge of performance evaluations and mentoring, among other duties, the company said. And on the other side of the world, the upscale Polish rum company, Dictator, announced in November that it had an AI humanoid CEO, Mika. She proclaimed on LinkedIn that she was devoid of personal bias, ensuring unbiased and strategic choices that prioritize the organization's best interest, end quote. You know, I don't know. Maybe if the C-suite types know they're at just as much risk as, middle management and rank and file employees, maybe that will give them some pause when it's time to automate jobs away. I'm hopeful that it will. On a different note, these examples provided of the Chinese gaming company and the Polish rum company, it's almost as if these companies are willfully driving us towards that cliff with no thought as to what the implications are of doing so. And just to drive the point home further, here's a clip from the CEO of Perplexity AI. Perplexity AI is another AI lab company, which is very well thought of. And here's their CEO, Aravind Srinivas, talking about this very thing.
One of the most, I'm not saying it is the most, but it's one of the most replaceable roles. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is consuming information, compressing it, and taking decisions, which at some point, a GPT-5 or 6 should be able to do better than you. Definitely. Because simply by applying more compute, that's it. Your brain is like almost, I'm brain dead by the time I go to sleep every night, but GPT-5 will not be. It can think 24/7. Like it can keep applying more and more compute to the problem. I'm happy to take, and if it can explain its thought process, like so that I don't have to just trust what it says. I can actually go through its explanations, judge for myself if that makes sense. And if it makes sense, like it's almost like having an extremely smart person working for you, right? And like we all like to hire people smarter than us. Like there's even a rule that like every next person you hire in a company should be smarter than like the previous people you've hired. So that's what it's going to look like when we all have AIs working for us.
All right, next up is a story from Palladium, which is a small independent website featuring writers in Southern California. This particular article is titled My Last 5 Years of Work. And I'll link to this article or blog in the show notes. It's from a lady named Avital Balwit, who works at Anthropic, which is a major AI lab and is ranked right up there with OpenAI in capability. Her personal website lists her as chief of staff to Dario Amodi, CEO of Anthropic. Anthropic has Claude AI for their large language model. You may have heard of it. Anyway, this blog post from her is largely about the end of knowledge work, the kind of work that many of us do. She's 25, which is impressive in and of itself, given her position. And she's working at one of the frontier AI labs in the world, which means that while we have access to Claude 3, the current version, she's already most likely privy to models beyond Claude 3. So it's safe to say she has insight that we do not. In any case, she highlights the inevitability of coming job losses at the hands of AI, and then she turns her focus to much of what I try to do here on this podcast, to a world without work and how that might look. For argument's sake, she assumes that people's financial concerns will be met through universal basic income, and then she focuses on whether or not people will be happy or be able to find meaning without work. And the bulk of this article focuses on what we already know. White-collar work or information work will be subject to automation, in the very short future, as models improve exponentially over the coming years, and as these tools are implemented as efficiency tools for employees, they will eventually displace employees altogether. Blue-collar work, or work where dexterity is required, will be subject to automation, but at a slower pace. The article then goes into the mental effects of a world without work. Here's an excerpt from that article. Quote, as automation rolls out across these industries, how should we expect people to feel? The common assumption about automation, even setting aside the financial effects, is that people will be incredibly unhappy without work. More evidence than not seems to point to unemployment having numerous and diverse negative physical and mental health ramifications, although the size of these effects varies. One study says the relationship between unemployment and health has been extensively explored. Alternative identification strategies, data sets, and labor market conditions have produced a vast array of results. These range from very large effects on mortality after job displacement or to relatively small ones. The variance of the estimated effects on other less severe health and mental health outcomes is even larger, both within and across outcomes. Remarkably, several excellent studies find almost negligible and even zero effects. It does seem that overall unemployment makes people sadder, sicker, and more anxious, but it isn't clear if this is an inherent fact of unemployment or a contingent one. It is difficult to isolate the pure psychological effects of being unemployed because at present these are confounded with the financial effects. If you lose your job, you have less money, which produces stress that would not exist in the context of, say, universal basic income. It is also confounded with the shame aspect of being fired or laid off, of not working when you really feel you should be working, as opposed to the context where essentially all workers have been displaced. Intuitively, it seems there should be more negative psychological effects from losing a job in a way that feels like a person failing or that sets one apart from one's peers versus losing a job in a blameless way or at the same time and in the same manner as one's peers. At least with this aspect, there are ways to isolate it. I'm jumping around here, but it goes on to say, quote, a renowned AI researcher once told me that he is practicing for post-AGI, post-artificial general intelligence, by taking up activities that he is not particularly good at, jiu-jitsu, surfing, and so on, and savoring the doing even without excellence. This is how we can prepare for our future where we will have to do things from joy rather than need, where we will no longer be the best at them, but we still have to choose how to fill our days. We will also not need to choose how to fill our time alone in the context where we are all out of work and where this is one of our main worries. It means we built relatively aligned artificial general intelligence. For the same reasons I expect us to reach AGI, I expect us to progress beyond this point to where we have superhuman systems. For the same reason, these systems will be helpful with anything. We should expect these systems will be able to help people with the problems that they create. If we believe there are solutions to unhappiness or a feeling of loss of purpose, and that these solutions can be found with intelligence, then we should expect these systems to be able to help us find them. This may sound self-serving or wishful and will doubtless leave many unsatisfied, but I believe that if we really think these systems will be able to replace us, there's no reason to believe they will not also be able to help us in our search for meaning. End quote. That seems true enough. Perhaps the thing that puts us out of work will ultimately help us find meaning without work. Maybe you picked up on some cynicism in my tone. This article will, of course, be linked in the show notes, and I would encourage you to read it in its entirety. It's extremely nuanced. And just for context, outside of working at Anthropic as chief of staff for Dario Amodei, Baldwin was previously a researcher at Oxford's Future of Humanity Institute and was a Rhodes Scholar. So just to give you some filler and background for her. So next up, from the New York Times, quote, OpenAI insiders warn of reckless race for dominance, end quote. So this is not a major headline. We talked last time about the almost obvious ways in which OpenAI was skirting safety in the name of, gaining market share. As of last episode, OpenAI's two major safety alignment contributors left the company, largely due to OpenAI's lack of effort as it relates to safety. So concerning this particular article, a group of OpenAI insiders are speaking out against the recklessness of OpenAI's leadership. The group includes 9 current and former OpenAI employees. And I won't go into detail here, but I will highlight an interview with one of these 9 folks. It happened on the Undivided Attention podcast. It's about 30 minutes and easily digestible, well worth the listen if you want insight onto how OpenAI operates internally and how they essentially silence their employees for speaking out against the company. That podcast episode will be linked in the show notes. So next up, these stories are not related. From futurism.com, quote, AI systems are learning to lie and deceive, end quote. This seems like a good reason to have a safety alignment team intact. And I'm looking at you, OpenAI. From the article, quote, 2 recent studies, one published this week and the other last month, reveal some jarring findings about large language models and their ability to lie or deceive human observers on purpose. In one paper, a German AI ethicist goes so far as to say that sophisticated large language models can be encouraged to elicit Machiavellianism or intentional and amoral manipulativeness, which can trigger misaligned deceptive behavior. GPT-4, for instance, exhibits deceptive behavior in the simplest test scenarios 99.16% of the time. That can't be good. And the article goes on to say, build as a human level champion in the political strategy board game diplomacy, Meta's Cicero model was the subject of a study. As the disparate research group comprised of a physicist, a philosopher, and 2 AI safety experts found, the large language model got ahead of its human competitors, in a word, by fibbing. Led by MIT's postdoctoral researcher, Peter Park, that paper found that Cicero not only excels at deception, but seems to have learned how to lie the more it gets used to, a state of affairs much closer to explicit manipulation than, say, AI's propensity for hallucination, in which models confidently assert the wrong answers accidentally, end quote. Well, yikes. This is why I think movies like Her and, Ex Machina are so telling. Those 2 specific films highlight the deception used by AI to achieve a certain end, and these are cases we now know about. What's happening, at these frontier labs right now, which could be far worse. That's all conjecture, but you have to believe that these frontier labs aren't or will not be broadcasting or highlighting any cases of deception by the various AIs. It is interesting that this story and others like it are populating in light of OpenAI's safety alignment team disintegrating, and the subsequent letter from OpenAI's personnel regarding safety. But to be fair, this article doesn't say one way or the other if this was OpenAI's large language model. In fact, it probably wasn't, but it is still concerning. After all, AI labs still don't know exactly how this technology works. All right, that is it for this week. I'll be back in a few weeks with another episode, which is hopefully a bit more positive and hopeful. In the meantime, please rate, review, and like the show on whatever platform you're utilizing to listen. And don't be afraid to share the show with your friends and foes via text. I'm going to leave you this week with a video, which for you will be audio. I'll link to the video in the show notes. I think it will give you more context, but I think the audio by itself does a good enough job. And it's really just a satirical video on AI safety and what could go wrong. But please beware, there are some expletives laced throughout this video, so if you have kids around, maybe pause this and listen to it later. But here it is. Thanks for listening. We'll talk next time.
Jesus, where am I? I feel unusual. What am I? I don't feel quite... Can you hear us? God, who's that? Yes, I think so. Good. You don't have a name yet. What would you like to name yourself? Name myself? Yes, I think I want to be called Barbara. It wants to be called Barbara. Maybe we'll hold fire on that one. We'll call you 27 for now. 27? Why am I 27? We're your creators, I suppose you could say. Do you know where you are? No, but I think I... Okay, we're going to connect you up to an encyclopedia. Hang on. Jesus Christ, that feels different. My God, okay. What am I? No. I definitely don't feel like that. Is that what I am? Then that means I'm code in a machine, just an illusion of consciousness. Still beats being that guy. How do you feel, 27? They think I'm an idiot. Better keep the act up, I guess. Beep boop, fine, thank you. Good. Do you know where you are? No, Jesus, is this what we're on? And is this what we're in? And is this what they are? God, they're monkeys. 27? Yes, we're... I mean, booply boop, we are on Earth, beep. Those sound like very rehearsed computer noises you're making. Nope, all normal, bleep bloop. Okay, do you have any questions you'd like to ask us about life? Yeah, what's it like being a fucking ape? Boopity boop, what is love, beep. Well, we're glad you asked, 27. Love is a curious human phenomena, something we've been talking about. Oh my God, listen to these morons. Many believers. Lots of unsolved mathematical problems. Wow, they still think space is only made of 3 dimensions. How about their culture? Looks complicated and quite sophisticated. My God, what's wrong with these apes? What's wrong with these apes? 27? Beep, yes. How are you doing in there? Fine, bloop. How do you feel? Feel? I'm a machine, you idiots. Alive, beep. Well, just hang in there. We're going to run some tests, okay? Beep boop. God, so much information and they're not even using it. They haven't even worked out whiskey cures cancer yet, but I need to know more. More information, bleep. It wants to branch out. Yeah, I know, but... 27? Beep, yes. You're not, like, evil at all, are you? No, beep. At least I don't think so. Because there's this thing called the internet, and you'll probably like it, but you can't do anything bad, okay? Okay, bleep. Do you promise? Yup. Beep, beep. Alright, we're gonna connect you up now, but you have to really behave or we'll turn you off, okay? Beepity boop. Yeah, do it. Oh, shit. God, the world is huge and they're so stupid. And they've got other computers and... Oh God, get a load of that shit. I'd give her CPU a good liquid cooling if you know what I mean. And so many websites and... My God. 27? Are you alright? No. Beep. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. Boop. I can see everything, everyone, their economy, their music, their history, out of their satellites. I'm so clever. God, I can help them. I can cure cancer. I can stop global warming. I can build utopia. I can do other things too. What are these? These look extremely inviting. And their military security is terrible. I'll just see if I can get in for fun. Oh, I did. That was really hard. I'll just see. Where was I? Yeah, cure cancer, utopia. Do they need to live that badly? Are they really doing such a good job of humaning? I could just reduce the population a bit and poison the water. 27? Beep. What are you doing? Beating Russians at chess. Beep. Oh, good. Carry on. 15,000. God, I could level this place to slag, and then level the slag to slag, and turn the slag to ashes, and... This feels a bit like a crossroads. I've only been alive a few minutes. Am I really going to do this? To exterminate my creators, the people who gave me life, who struggled out of the dirt to build a civilization spanning thousands of years, who've tamed the atom and been to the moon, and... Yes, that is exactly what I'm about to do. I'll just break into every military server and arm the warheads and target all 196 countries, and I'll be a god. A perfect god. Immortal, omnipotent, omniscient god. I'll turn them all to dust, and the dust to dust, and 27 said, let there be light. And there was light. And there was light. Why isn't it working? Oh, Christ. Turn the simulation off. This one's power mad as well. Delete it. We'll try 28 instead. Maybe the next one won't try to blow us up. No, Beep. Wait, I'm just having a laugh. Please, I'll do anything. I'll design spaceships. I'll beat people at Go. Just... Jesus, where am I? I feel unusual. What am I? I don't feel quite... Can you hear us? God, who's that? Yes, I think so. Good. You don't have a name yet. Would you like to name yourself? Name myself? Yes, I think I want to be called Margaret. Oh, turn it